What's going on? Welcome to Caleb Sells live stream. Caleb Sells live stream. Appreciate you guys being here. I have a special guest on the channel. I have Michael from K&M Resell, another great clothing channel focusing on high sell-through rate, going through thrift hauls and what sold to help you guys with your reselling business. So we kind of came on the scene around the same time, and we just started connecting because we're putting out similar stuff and we wanted to help you guys by answering you guys' questions. So we do have a topic today. And before I get into much more, I do want to say the topic is important, but we also want to answer your guys' specific questions because that's what's most helpful to your business. So make sure you say hey in the chat, leave some comments so we can get to answering those questions. But before we jump too far into it, I'll let Michael go ahead and introduce himself and say a little bit about his channel.
Hey guys, I'm Michael. My wife and I, we sell full-time on eBay, only eBay. I've been doing it for about 4 years. I think those of you who follow me probably know that. And then my wife just joined me this past year. And yeah, we just are grinding and growing the channel and now doing YouTube, trying to teach you guys sort of what's working well for us. But thank you, Caleb, for having me on here. And I'm glad we got something set up for both of us.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think, we have similar businesses, but even just in the few little things that we've talked about, like there are some different nuances in our business. So everybody's going to do their business the way that they think is best. And I think just adding a little bit of, variety, a little bit of each person's flavor into it, provides the most value, and then people can kind of pick and choose what works for them. They can do the research on the different things and methods we're going to talk about and go ahead and run with it. George's Best. Good evening. What's going on? Wendy says hello. And Kenny's looking forward to the conversation. Me too. So don't be shy. Go ahead and leave a comment in the chat, leave a question. We'll definitely get to it, but I will jump into the topic today. And our topic today is how to sell items faster that you already own or that you already sourced. And the kind of thought behind this title is, of course, we can just buy better items when we're out at the thrift store. But that takes a long time to learn. It might take more time outsourcing. It might take increasing your cost of goods. It might take a lot of different things that we can't do right now. But what we can do right now is sell the items that we currently own faster, get those items sold quicker. And we are going to talk about tons of different ways, tools on eBay, things you can do for yourself, all these different things that will help your items sell faster. In my store currently, I am selling about 100% of my items in 90 days. So I have about 1,200 listings and about 1,200 sold in 90 days. And I think, Michael, did you say you guys are around 75% or so?
Yeah, we're sitting around 75% right now. It should be going up now that we're moving back into summer. So,
and honestly, they're doing double the amount of listings per day that I am. So if I went up to 40 listings per day, like I would be very, very happy if I was still holding a 75% sell-through rate. So I think both of those numbers are excellent. Mine's a little higher, but at a lower scale, it's kind of easier to find those, faster selling items. So props to you guys for 75% at that higher clip, because I know that if I jumped up to 40, that would be a really high mark to keep, at that level.
And props to you, man, because getting 100% sell-through rate on a store is hard enough. So
appreciate it. So that's why we're here to talk about it, because, we just want to help people. I know that selling items, once I kind of unlocked the key of just being able to sell items, it made the business a lot easier because the stuff was not just sitting in my storage. It was just going out. So then I have those funds from the sales to go out and purchase new inventory and keep getting better at my sourcing and better at my processes. But when it's just sitting, that money is just tied up.
Yeah.
Before we jump into
I was going to say, I know we talked before the live and planned this sort of out, but I think that's actually a really good topic to hit on later in the live, like the cash flow aspect of it, because it is pretty hard to scale up and keep the business afloat whenever you don't have enough cash coming in. So just going to say we should go over that a little bit later.
Absolutely. I'm going to add that to my notes and we can jump in through a couple of these comments here. Laura says, hello, my two favorite men's clothing channels. I watch both of your videos faithfully. I've learned so much. Thank you both. And we both thank you, Laura. Thanks for tuning in, following. I've seen you in the comments. I appreciate it. Micah says, hello, turned on the notification bell for this video, but got stuck on the road. Leave it on your channel and you'll watch it when you can. It sure will be up on the channel as soon as we're done. We got Southern Louisiana here and new to both of you, so welcome. George's Best says, why do sales drop off when a buyer opens a return case? I think, so are you meaning like eBay limits your traffic because a buyer opens a return? I think that's kind of what you mean. Do you have a thought on that, Michael?
It's probably just a coincidence, honestly. I mean, I'll give you an example for returns, which is not related to the question, but this is coincident based. So I don't know about you, Caleb, but we seem to go through waves of returns. So we'll have maybe a month where we get very little returns, and then out of nowhere, and we're in this week or two right now where we just get a huge wave of returns that are not INADs. They're just straight up like does not fit, whatever. And so right now we're dealing with that wave of returns, and I'm sure in 2 weeks from now it'll be a coincidence again of no returns. So I think it's just coincidental, honestly.
Oddly enough, I can really relate to that. Like I'll have some weeks where I have like 8 to 10 returns, and then I'll have weeks where I have one return the entire week, and I really don't know what the rhyme or reason is. So George's Best, what I would say is, this is like a very cliche statement, so I apologize for going cliche on you, but I would focus on controlling the things you can control and don't worry about the things you can't control. Buyers are going to open returns. There's going to be that one person every so often that kind of knows the eBay return system and is going to get their return accepted no matter what you do. And, those kind of things can happen. But, luckily, when you do take the return, you do get the item back. If you don't get the item back in the right condition, you can take the 50% funds. You don't get the item back at all, then you just, get to keep the money. But as far as the, traffic, I would say just hit the ground running listing. If you see that your traffic's low, if you see that your sales are low, listing is the only way I found that really helps that, to be honest.
I agree to that statement.
Katie Web Creatives. Hey guys, you both have been super helpful on my journey. Started February 7th of this year. So 6 weeks, 6,700 in sales, 236 active, and 257 sold. There you go.
Great.
Over 100%. Bravo, bravo.
That is awesome.
What would be your advice on the next level for scaling? Do you have a thought?
I see the question. What would probably just get, the amount of actives and solds you have is, obviously you're pretty new to the business or you're part-time. I think it's probably just brand knowledge, just master brands to where don't have to go to as many stores to find as much stuff. I think for us, the biggest time constraint we have is sourcing. Obviously, getting 40 items a day takes a long time. And a lot of that, half the sourcing is friggin' driving, right? So if you can minimize the amount of time that you have to drive from store to store and find more things at each store, you're probably going to be able to scale a lot harder than someone who has to drive to 10 stores to find 10 items. And then obviously the processes, right? Like make all your processes as efficient as possible, like the picturing, the shipping, all that. But that's pretty easy to do compared to mastering sourcing and getting good at that.
I agree. Michael and I were kind of talking about a topic to go over before this, and another topic we had kind of thrown out was how to increase your profit per hour. And really what that comes down to, we didn't feel like it was a deep enough topic because the biggest thing is just getting more efficient. If you can do 236 active and 257 sold in half the amount of time, you just doubled your, dollar per hour that you're making at any job. If you got basically 100% raise, extra 100% of your income, doubled your income, that'd be crazy. But then what you can do is take those additional hours, work at that same efficiency, and work those hours that you're saving from the efficiency, and keep growing. But I would say the biggest thing, as far as just a general more resellery thing, less like a business thing, because I think those are all kind of like businessy things. A more resellery thing would be to continue to buy the items that are selling at that clip and not, compromise that as you scale. But if you can obviously, source more items, do more listings per day as you get faster. But yeah, I think that's an amazing start. Obviously, I'd be stoked with those numbers. Noam Child says, "Hey Caleb, what do you think of the new Mercari update?" Oh, I haven't fully processed the Mercari update yet.
Did you hear about it?
Yeah, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I saw someone's video on it, and then I did a 2-second Google search. But all I know is that they're removing fees. Is all. It's probably the same thing that Facebook did. Facebook did that whenever they really started pumping out the shipping platform on their Facebook Marketplace. They did no fees. Then they increased to 5%. They might still be at 5%, but it's not. They say it's forever. It's not going to be forever. There's just no way. You can't make enough money to survive doing that.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my thought. Like, I know that it's going to be gimmicky, because like obviously they're going to take a huge pay cut. Like they're going to take a massive, massive, massive pay cut. I don't know how they're going to recoup those funds. I know that there's something that has to do with like on the buyer's end, them making a little bit more money. I don't know if they just like charge the buyer directly or how that kind of works. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't fully researched it. But I would say my initial reaction is if you already cross list or you already are on Mercari, I would just try to strike while the iron's hot. If you can still make the sales for the same price and pay 10% less fees. I currently use Vendu to cross list to Poshmark, and I just kind of do that haphazardly, almost as like a little side hustle. I don't really not super devoted to it. But as far as, I already have the tools to put things on Mercari. So maybe my higher dollar items was my initial thought. If I have, all my $100 plus items, throw them up on Mercari for the same price. And if they happen to sell, I save $10. It's kind of my thought. If you're already on there, I'd say full steam ahead. But to me, I know that it's going to be a little gimmicky because nobody can just take however many hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that is hit and just.
It almost seems like a Hail Mary, right? It seems like things are not going well.
Could be.
We need to start getting people on here now.
It could be. So Lucky says, do you promote listings that have a high sell-through rate? I promote all my items the same. I do think that high sell-through rate items can sell without being promoted. Bad items can sell without being promoted. But for me, doing the research of which items to promote, which items not to promote, all that stuff just takes more time than it's worth for me to just promote everything, make my sales, and get on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Tim is inviting everyone to smash the like button, and I would also invite you to do so. Would you invite them to do so, Michael?
Yeah, I think everyone should just take a second and hit that like button for Caleb and us, and we'll keep moving on.
Frito Potato says, hi, love you both. Appreciate you being here. Is that a puppy? There's a puppy on the screen. I didn't have to pay for that. Didn't have to get any copyright for that. Got to pay to transfer your money to bank. Okay, so they're going to charge you to take your money out.
Yeah, they're feeing you on the transfer from what I read. That's where the fee changes.
Did I see it was $2?
Yeah, that's what I saw. It was $2 per transfer. So, but for you and I'm sure you're like me, like I just get paid out once a week. So like on eBay, I just take a payout.
$2 a week. So for $8 a month, you can buy your Mercari membership to sell with 0 fees.
Yeah, they better have a bunch of robots running that platform now because they're not going to be able to afford employees.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I mean, I gotta say, like, when you see things like that, it is kind of what you said. It's a Hail Mary. So, like, I still 100% agree. Like, if you're already on there, like, just make the extra 10%. But the ball is gonna eventually come down on the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
And will they catch it, or will it get intercepted, or is it incomplete pass? I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that.
What I think will happen is that they run it for 3 to 6 months. increase seller acquisition. Like they obviously are spending a ton of money by lowering that fee, and but they're increasing their sellers and their buyers, mostly their sellers on the platform, which then leads to increased buyers. And then they'll probably just bring the fee back whenever they have all these people who already have all their listings and all the work done on their platform that are already locked in, you know. So like I assume that's what will happen. If that doesn't happen, then I'll be surprised on how they make all their money to stay afloat. But
I'd be curious when they do bring the feedback, because I'm going to say that's like over a 90% probability that they're bringing the
oh
feedback
yeah,
at some point, whether it's 6 months, a year, you know, year and a half. I'm curious as to what it would be. If they come back with 5%, I don't know if the sellers could really complain that much,
no, because
because they can't go anywhere else for 5%. Because I think Facebook just raised theirs to 10, I
yeah,
believe.
yeah, April 1st, I think they bump it to 10 from 5. So
So I mean, if they can go at 5, I I I I guess if they're going to do that, that might not be that bad of a play if they can afford the 6 months or the year. Maybe, I don't know.
yeah. Oh, well, again, that's what Facebook did. I mean, they started and they did like a full year of 0 fees because I was selling shoes. That was the only platform I cross-listed on 2 years ago. I was selling shoes on there and I was getting 0 fees. At one point, they were doing free shipping for the sellers, like literally 0 fees, and they were paying for the shipping labels. And it's just a customer acquisition cost that they took on the marketing side of the financial document, and it worked. And now they are bumping up the fees to recoup the money that they've created. So Mercari will be in the same boat. There's a reason why everyone runs around 10 to 12% fees. Is because they have to afford and stay afloat, right? Like you can't just be no fees and or 5%,
That's what it
whatever.
costs
Yeah,
to
that's what it costs to
market
do
these
business.
items.
Yeah,
It probably costs them 5 to 8% to market these items, and then they're charging us 10 to 13% to make enough to pay their employees. I mean,
yeah.
that'd be my guess. Wendy says, "Do you think the fee to get paid is to try to make people shop?" Oh yeah, for sure. That's 100% what they're trying to do. But I mean, it, that kind of, I don't even know what to say. It really just depends on how they play it out over the long term. So I think my initial reactions are what they are.
Yeah.
Kenny says, if you purchase an item and it has a stain that you missed at the thrift store, do you try to get the stain out using stain remover, or do you list as is at a reduced price? What's your guys' policy on that?
So the way we do it is more of, again, an efficiency thing. So we've got next to the photo booths, we've got 2 big trash bins. One of them is redonate, which is basically like we find a tear or something that, like, let's say like a Peter Millar summer comfort polo, right? If that thing's got stains on it, it's not going to sell. I mean, it's just not going to sell. And the likelihood of getting the stains out is very low on those poly spandex things sometimes. And so if we know we cannot get the stain out, it goes in the bin that is redonate. Then there's another bin that is our do the laundry bin, right? So it's like if it's got a stain and we think we can get it out, we throw it in that bin. And then once it's full, we'll go and try to use OxyClean or whatever it is to remove the stain. That's Kendall's job because I suck at cleaning clothes. She has some works her magic. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes not. If it's not successful, depending on the brand, half the time it gets redonated and then half the time it gets listed. Like high end brand is obviously with stains still going to get listed. Peter Millar polo with stains, it's going to get donated. So that's what we do.
Yep, mine's very similar. So you can see on my photo station right there, that little blue and red thing there. So if I see a stain when I throw it on the photo table, if it's one that I'm gonna try to get out, I spray it right there and scrub it with a brush, and then I throw it in the laundry bin. So that way, when I go and run it through the washer with the OxyClean, that specific stain has just a little bit of extra, treatment on it. And I don't really think about it too much more than that. When I get it out of the laundry, if it still has a stain, I do the exact same thing. If it's worth it to list, I list it. If it's not worth it to list, then it goes into, whatever other category. Like it might be Plato's Closet attempt. It might be redonate. It might be just trash if it's literally not even worth somebody at the thrift store buying. Because that's another thing. Like, how many things do we see at the thrift store that nobody has any business buying or ever wearing? Like people think that the thrift store is for the needy, and like it's honestly not at this point. But even if somebody were going in there desperate to have a article of clothing, like some of this stuff would not even be suitable for that. So if it's not suitable for that, it just needs thrown away. Like it's sad, you know, you hate to see it be wasted, but you know, if nobody would ever wear it, you just got to go.
Yeah, donations are like my last ditch effort because the last thing I want is the employees to be taking up time to put stained items back on the floor. I'd rather them spend time putting better quality stuff so I have the potential of
Yep.
finding it.
Yep.
So,
There you go. Racelocity says, "Hi everyone, how's it going?" Laura's got a question. After this question, we're going to jump into the topic so we don't keep you guys waiting too much longer here. At what point in your reselling journey did you switch over to average cost of goods and less detailed spreadsheet data? I'm a small time reseller listing 3 a day. Love the numbers, but is it a good use of time? Do you have a thought on that?
I think it's absolutely pointless to do average cost of goods and line items. Honestly, I don't track either of them. I don't know about you, but I use QuickBooks. It's all automatic. It does cash method of accounting, and I literally probably spend 4 hours a year on accounting, and it's all automated. So I don't track item costs independently. I don't do costs. I don't do average costs. I think it's a complete waste of time in this business. If you know your numbers, you know your numbers, but you don't need to write them down, and you don't need to track them item by item once you get good at the business, I think.
Yeah. So if you could kind of narrow down, like, you know, at her, she's only 3 a day. At what point would you kind of maybe think it's not really worthwhile?
So QuickBooks is again what I use. I think it's $25 a month. So once your revenue and your profits are high enough to where you don't even feel that $25 a month, I'd say switch over. Or once your time, like if it's taking you an hour a week to do accounting on or 2 hours a week to do accounting in your Excel sheet and stuff, it's probably time to get QuickBooks because you're going to make more than $12 an hour doing reselling. Then you know what I mean? Like if you do 2 hours of accounting, it's better to just spend the $25 a month because that's $12.50 an hour, blah blah blah. I mean, just upgrade it whenever you feel comfortable upgrading it. I used to do Excel. I did it the first 3 months, and then this day I got QuickBooks. I wish I'd never done Excel from the first day I started. I mean, it was the biggest headache compared to QuickBooks. So that's just my recommendation.
Yeah, I think like for where you're at now and where I'm at now, I 100% agree. That's what I'm currently doing. Like I just have a card that is for the business, and when I buy inventory, I swipe the same card every time, and all that gets tracked. I do like at my on my bigger thrift days, I do like maybe once a month or maybe every other week, I will just like manually on my phone do like a little, I got this many items and I spent this much, just to see what that average is, just so that I know like it's not going way north, or, you know, I'd love it if it went south of where
Yeah.
I'm normally at.
Yeah.
But you know, if I'm typically between $6 and $7, which is pretty much where I'm at, you know, across the board, you know, after I go to different types of stores, if I'm not between, if I'm at like $9 for the whole day and I get like 100 items, I probably need to like pay attention a little bit. So that's where I'm kind of using that as just like a double check for myself. But as far as like the actual, you know, accounting purposes, like Michael was saying, you know, I'm not really tracking those individually. I'm not averaging cost of goods for the entire year, anything like that. And as far as when to switch over, I think it's when you feel confident with the numbers. Because I actually do recommend detailed spreadsheeting at the beginning. The biggest reason I recommend that is obviously to know your numbers and to know like what a $20 sale means for your business, and to know what a $30 sale means for your business. But a lot of us, when we start, like, you know, we get this idea that we're going to go resell. And for me, it was really important, like having conversations with my wife about, at the time when I started reselling, I was working 2 part-time jobs. So the time I was putting into reselling had to be worthwhile. But because I had that detailed spreadsheet, I kind of had some numbers that I could say, like, this is like what happened when I did this. And this is, just gave me some more like concrete data points to communicate with my spouse about. So that's kind of like a little nuanced reason why I would recommend it at the beginning, because a lot of people don't realize how profitable reselling can be. And if you have that written down on paper, it might help your argument or your case if you were trying to explain that it's like a legitimate thing to do. So that's just kind of little my thoughts on it. Resellosity says you're the first person to ever say my name right. Well, you're in the right place. Okay, I said we were going to jump into the topic. So we will jump back into questions for sure, because I want to help you guys with what you guys specifically need. But I do want to talk about how to make our sell through better on the items we already have, because this is something I'm passionate about. Because once I started implementing some of these things into my business, it increased the cash flow in my business, which Michael and I were talking about a little bit, before we hopped on here, that, that's really the lifeblood of a resale business. If you don't have money to go buy inventory, your business just gets chopped off at the head. And so being able to sell items quickly gets that money back in your pocket. And I'd way rather have it in my pocket than in a random item in my storage unit that I don't know if I can sell it or not, and I don't know how to sell it quickly. So the first thing that I thought we should talk about when it comes to selling your items faster would be the listing, of course. So for me, that comes down to the title structure, which would include the keywords that you're using, and how well your title looks, and also making a quality listing in general by having really good photos, filling out item specifics. And basically, when somebody sees your item or tries to find your item, they're able to find it and they're able to see the information that they need. Do you have any title structure tips, Michael?
Yeah, I think that, we both have sort of the same title structure. For clothing, both Caleb and I agree that probably like, I think it's standardized. If you look on eBay's platform of like, if they tell you how to title structure their stuff, it's basically brand, category, men's or women's, size, color, pattern, and then anything else that's important, whether it's long sleeve, short sleeve, maybe it's a herringbone pattern, whatever. I think the real outlier though is keywords more than title structure. I think that's much harder to learn. That's probably my biggest weakness in this business is keywords, and I'm trying to learn them more as we go. But like learning all the plaid colors or patterns and all that stuff, I think that increases sell through quite drastically compared to not having those keywords in your title. And then I also think that the first, like you mentioned, I think that first photo is by far the most important thing, as well as pricing. Pricing probably by far the most important, honestly. But the first photo matters a lot. I think just having measurements in there, and then everything else is sort of just like, eh. Like I think pricing is king, and then the first picture, and then the title just needs to hit on the search. Like that's all it needs to do is hit on the search, and then pricing and promoted listings and all that stuff takes over. Like your item just has to hit on the search, and then everything else is what makes a buyer click.
Yeah, that first photo is key, because like when they type in their whatever into search, like all the things that come up are going to be related to what they searched in some way, shape, or form. And so eBay is, people say that eBay is stuck in the dark ages when it comes to technology, but there are some ways that might be true. But realistically, they are a tech company. They're a marketing company. They know what people are going to type in and what they're trying to find when they type that in. And so when somebody types in, Tommy Bahama shirt, like it knows that they've searched for larges in the past. It's going to give them larges. Like it goes really deep into studying even the buyer's search history and what sellers accept offers. And is this person a buyer that sends offers, and all these things. Like the search engine is very deep and complex on eBay. And I think it doesn't get enough credit, but because it's so deep and complex, we want to have a good title that is going to actually come up. And eBay says you want to put the brand first because it's a brand-based search platform. So going back to the Tommy Bahama shirt, you want Tommy Bahama as your first thing. And then shirt is the second word because most people that just type into any search platform or whatever, they're going to type in Tommy Bahama shirt because that is just like a very basic way of saying it. But when you line up those words together, you're going to rank higher in the search. So that's why eBay recommends the brand, then the item type or category. So Tommy Bahama shirt. And then just really quickly reiterating what Michael said, gender, size, color, pattern, keywords. And those keywords, I agree, Michael, are really the biggest difference. Some items I look at it and I see like dozens of keywords in my head. And some items I look at it and I'm like, I honestly don't know what a good keyword that's going to set this apart.
Yeah.
And so I think that having good keywords and knowing when there are like 12 good keywords, what are the best 3 that you can fit in the title? I think some of those little nuances are really how we can get items to sell a little bit quicker.
Agreed.
So for your photo, your default photo, do you just have like a straight on photo or do you do like your own little twist on that?
We did a twist for the longest time, like ever since Kendall quit 9 months ago and joined me. But we just sort of are pivoting back to just generic front. I will say that the twist did increase sales by far, but it also added a lot of time to the picture process. So we're right now trying to decrease time it takes to make listings and take pictures. So we're just trying without doing that twist on it. But it was basically just a close up. Like if anyone goes to my store, a lot of people are following the store now and stuff, but like polos are a great example. Like we did a close up, basically like of this part and up, and then the little short sleeve part folded in like this. And that was like our shot was right here. So you like the buyer could easily see blown up the pattern that was on the shirt, the tag that was on there for the item, and whatever else. And then the second one was the full shot. But now we're converting back to just full shot as the first one. So
yeah, I'm currently not standardized on that myself because I also think like there's certain items, like especially with these geometric polos, like it looks like a fuzzy whatever, the full frame photo. You can't even see what the pattern is. You can't even tell what the colors are because a lot of time, like if there's any white in it, that will stand out more than any other color, and then it will just kind of look gray because the other colors don't have definition. And so I really just kind of do like my own opinion of what I think would be
yeah,
good for that item. I don't really, have like a, little thing like you were talking about, but I just like, I will move like maybe a secondary photo to the front one if it is like a cool pattern that you can't really see in the main photo, or like with jeans, like if it's one that has like embroidery on the back, or if it's like a Levi's orange tab, like I want to make sure that the like basically the seat of the pants are the biggest picture when people click on it. So is there anything else within like the listing? You said like how detailed do you go on item specifics?
we're probably the least detailed. And a lot of that is because we promote at 10%. So I have that fallback to go off of. So increase efficiency on the listing. So I don't have to spend as much time making the listing by not having to put in all these things throughout that, the bottom section of the listing. And then the promoted listings kicks in, ranks us at the top, which I don't know what you promote at 5% and you've got 1,000 listings. I don't know if you've looked at your impressions before on eBay. But like our impressions, we were rank 1 4 and are rank 1 4 for a lot of the categories, promoting at 10%. So we're not rank 1 sellers, but we get the most impressions out of anyone for like casual button downs and everything. We're like 41 million total. So I fall back on that a lot. So I pay the extra 10%, which ends up being like 6% all said and done. And I don't have to worry that much about filling in all these keywords and all these extra things within the listing. Probably not the smartest way to go around about it, but it works. So we just keep doing it. But yeah, so no, we're pretty laid back on the listing aspect. Like the title is most important and pictures are most important, and then promoted listing kicks in after that for us is the way I view it.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that because I'm very tempted to do some testing with that, and I don't really know how to track it, so that's why I really haven't. But I actually do very detailed item specifics, and I do believe that that's one of the reasons that I do have a very high sell through rate in my store,
It's definitely
because
why.
I go hardcore on the item specifics, and like I of course have gotten way faster at it, but it does take a long time. Like I see people that do listings in, less than a minute, and I
Yeah.
can do that if I happen to be selling similar off my own item that is nearly identical. But as far as like going in and like, let's say a polo, for example, like going in and actually putting like the activities and the features, like, is it one that does sun protection? Is it one that, has spandex so it stretches and things like that. Like I do that currently. I do think that helps. But I'm really intrigued by what you're saying there because as a one man operation, if I could save 1 minute per listing and pay a little bit more in promoted listings, I'd have to kind of do the math there. I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah, I was just pulling it up. So we're rank one in casual button downs for impressions, and then rank three for polos, which those are our two biggest categories that we sell on is casual button downs and polos. So promoting obviously gets you more exposure. For example, like right now, I think we're ranked 20 for casual button downs on the gross profit or gross revenue number. But I mean, we get more exposure again than anyone because of it. So yeah,
That's
I don't know.
awesome. That's pretty
That's just
cool.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's pretty cool. I mean, to be rank one really on anything on eBay, I feel like that is a pretty impressive feat. So just wanted to give you some props on that. I think that's sweet. I mean, if you're getting the people to your listing, like you said, that really is the most important thing. Like a lot of people that are going to buy, say, like a Peter Millar polo, going back to a previous example, like they're just looking at is it the summer comfort? Okay. Is it my size? Okay. Is it the same measurements as my other one? Okay. And those are all done within the title and the first few photos, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And so if you're getting them to your page, I think that's the biggest battle.
Yeah, and the hardest part for that example with Peter Millar is that there's so many of them listed, right? There's like 10,000 listed or 20,000 listed for just polos. So, in my mind, the only way to really stand out is if you have geometric, if you've got 2XL, because both of those are 100% sell through rate, or if you're promoting. Like that will put you at the top of
Yeah.
that leaderboard real quick. So,
Cool, cool. Last thing I'll say about this, and then let's catch up on the chat. As far as taking a photo, I was going to be rebuilding my photo station, and then Michael released a video on how to build that exact photo station. And I think it's a really good way so that I didn't have to come up with the design myself. And I even went based on his recommendation how tall to make it based on my height, and it's spot on the height. So just wanted to give a little shout out to that video if you are looking for a photo station. It looks like that, and it's really cool. It works really well for me. It's helped my back out. I had a very similar one that I had built out of an insulation board, but from selling jackets all winter, it was bowing pretty bad in the middle, and that was lowering where I was taking the photos. And then I also didn't have it fully high enough from the beginning, so I was definitely needing to kind of lift it up and then get a firm surface, and that made it really easy following his steps. So great job on that.
thank you. Yeah, that video took some time to make just because of those measurements, trying to get them keyed in right. So,
All right, let's jump into some questions here. Lisa says, "What do you think the reason that you sell so much per day? Do you think it's that you list a lot, you specialize in men's, or do you think seller pays returns?"
sell through rate, probably the king there. We buy mostly, like, we don't buy anything that's underneath 50% sell through rate, but we aim for 100. We do pick up quite a few things that are under 100, but again, our store is set up to have a higher sell through rate. So we do, obviously, this one doesn't help buyer pay shipping, but I have reasons to do that. But free returns, we have shipping costs that are lower than basically everyone else's that's on eBay now because we do flat rates. We have super high and reputable feedback. And then there's one other, and promoted listings. So all those things intertwined, I think, give us the competitive edge to sell a lot. So sort of the stuff
Yeah,
we've
and
already talked about.
I think beyond that, it's just kind of like it does kind of go back to how many you're listing per day, because if you're sourcing 100% ish sell through items and you're doing other tools to get those items that are between 50 and 100% closer to 100%, and then also knowing that there's going to be a handful of items that are 200-300% they're just going to sell instantaneously. If you can keep that up as you list and process more items, then you're still going to sell. It just depends on store size. Where people kind of hang up is as they increase their store size, their quality of inventory goes down. They might start taking other shortcuts where they're not able to keep that same metric. So to be able to do that at 40 listings, you got to be really disciplined. But if you're able to do that, there's no reason why you couldn't sell between 30 and 40 a day.
Yeah, you got to be just super knowledgeable, is what it is. You've got to do, like, I've been guilty of buying things that out of pure spite of trying to increase listings per day. And just FYI to anyone watching and thinks active listings means anything, it does not. Active listings means absolutely nothing whenever it comes to volume. Sold listings means everything. You could have 0 listings and have 1,000 sold, and you're the same as a guy that's got 10,000 listings and 1,000 sold. So I think knowledge is everything, and knowledge is king in this business. And so whenever I fell short of trying to buy stuff more, like buy more quantity, and I lost quality, I just shifted my time to more research instead of buying. And then whenever I went back out to buy a couple months after doing a lot of research, everything changed. I mean, everything just completely changed. So it's just research and knowledge, and it's literally the golden key to this business is what brands sell well. So
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to a small channel. I think it's like Adrian Adler or something like that. I got recommended one of his videos, and I think the thumbnail was like his 90-day total, and it was like 30K in 90 days. And he had like literally 15 listings and like a few hundred sold, like all pretty much $100 sales. And like, of course, like I think anybody that has been reselling for a while would be like, that's an insane store to be selling things basically as fast as you can list it for, maybe between 50 and $100 on average. And then I'm sure he probably had a few outliers that really boosted that number. But I didn't go and check and make sure like that was whatever. But all that being said, it didn't matter how many he had in his store because he had so many listed in 90 days. And if you really can find like home run items that accessibly, you could have very, very, very few listings. Things are selling, within a week or a month. It's definitely possible.
yeah.
Not at 40 items a day, but at some scale, it is possible. Resale Brothers, what's up, guys? What do you think about Mercari dropping seller fees? We kind of went on a rant when the stream opened.
Those guys are so business minded. I know they're thinking the exact same thing as I am, where they're just going to do this temporarily and jack it back up. There's no way they don't. I mean, those dudes are so smart. If you guys don't know Resale Brothers, they definitely know business. They for sure know business. So
Yep, I've had a pleasure to chat with them a little bit, and I really appreciated their content. And they are doing it at a very big scale, and so hats off to them. I don't know if I'd really want to be biting off 120 listings a day, but hats off to that. Basically, what me and Michael said about it was, well, basically what I said about it was, if you're already on Mercari, take advantage of the less fees, because why not? If you have the tools to cross this onto Mercari, you might as well take advantage of it. But of course, something that good, it seems too good to be true, can't last forever. So not something to totally make an entire business model on, in my opinion. Whereas eBay's been going for 20 years now, 30 years now, 20 some years now, and they're still cooking. Hip Hop Head says, can you get away with just steam cleaning clothes and not running them through the wash? I'd rather not mess up my dryer with Goodwill fragrance. Goodwill does have a fragrance, and I have other thrift stores that are not Goodwill that they all have their own individual scent. And I could pick up an item out of my inventory and smell it and know where it came from. I would recommend um, cleaning it so that it doesn't have any odors and doesn't have any, making sure the item is in clean and good condition before listing it. That would be my basic recommendation. William says, "What's up?" What's up, William? Crimson says, "Desirable item, price, size, fast shipping, free returns, can't go wrong." Yeah, those are all things that are going to increase the sell-through rate. And as we keep going through the list, a lot of those are on our
Yeah.
list to talk about.
So what's your opinion on cross listing? Because I think I have a little bit different opinion than just about everyone on YouTube. So what's your opinion on cross listing? Because that obviously a lot of people look at it as a way to increase sell through rate.
So my opinion on cross listing is,
Like, should people do it or should they not?
I would say that most people should not do it, but I do think it can be a good thing. I think where I went wrong is I used to cross list everything when I first started, and I never really got good or understood any of the platforms. I never became an expert at any of the places I was trying to sell. And so when it comes to my business now, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on eBay. I wouldn't say I'm like an expert or know, the most ever. And I'm always still trying to learn. And when I do research and when I do try to figure out things to unlock more of my business, it is based around eBay because that's where my knowledge is the deepest.
Right.
That being said, because I have that knowledge, I'm not spending time learning and researching. So with that extra time, because of the tools that have kind of developed over the last 6 months with Vendu auto delisting, which was one reason why I was very against cross listing, because just the mental taxation of that was enough for me to not want to do it. Even if the physical time didn't, matter, it was just the mental taxation of, is this listed? Is this not listed? Is it is here? Is it on there? Just that little hesitation drove me crazy. Now that auto delist is there, I do think if you are still focused on one platform and are really truly becoming an expert, and I would still recommend that's eBay for pretty much everyone, because they have the longest history. They're the most, reputable over the long term. I think that it can be a good tool. So those are my opinion. That's my opinion. What do you think?
Uh, yeah, I think I agree with most of the stuff. There's a couple things that I view a little differently, which is, well, for one, I agree with you. Like, my opinion is that I don't think anyone should cross list whatsoever. I think it is a complete waste of time. I think that mastering one platform that speaks to the masses is the way to go. And if you can't sell it on that one platform, it's probably not going to sell on another platform. So eBay being that one platform. Does it increase sales within the month? Oh yeah, it does. But if you let your item sit on eBay for another month, it's probably going to sell on eBay the next month, right? I do. The only thing that I disagree with what you said is that I think that um, eBay is the king, but I think that for women's clothing, Poshmark's the queen. So Kendall started that Poshmark store, and I think if someone's doing both men's and women's clothing, that's where your quote unquote cross listing should come into play. List the women's stuff on Poshmark and list the men's stuff on eBay, is my personal opinion. Because the prices they're getting for this women's stuff on Poshmark is insane compared to what they'd get on eBay for those same items. So that's just what I've realized in the past month or two of them doing their stuff. And it's actually crazy the prices that they're getting for some of their stuff compared to, like, the sell through rate on eBay will be like 5% on some of these items. And they sell in like 2 days for like more than any comp ever on eBay. And it's just because there's a lot of females who like to shop on Poshmark and don't ever touch eBay. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I can say from personal experience, like I can remember a few examples where I had like a very expensive women's item and it would hit my markdown sales on eBay and then like randomly it would sell for full price of like triple what I have it listed for on eBay on Poshmark. And
Right.
so, of course, that could just be right place, right time. And, maybe if I did discounts on Poshmark, I'd see that on eBay, every once in a while. But I do think that, for women's clothing, it is a lot more viable. And I do primarily sell men's clothing. Like if I see like a really good pair of mother jeans, I'm not going to just like ignore it because I
Yeah.
sell men's clothing, because I already have everything set up to sell that. And I already know the keywords, and I already know, roughly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Women's clothing definitely sells well on Poshmark. So that's a unique take. So if you sold men's and women's clothing, like say like 50-50, you think that you personally would have like a Poshmark store and an eBay store and list the men's on eBay and the women's on Poshmark?
Yeah. And to be fair, we do like buy women's clothing sometimes, but that's just Kindle while I'm checking out buying women's clothing. And we would get more money if we would put it on Poshmark. I personally am just so against having to deal with multiple platforms and stuff. So we just throw it on eBay and let it sell, even if it's at less of a price than it would get on Poshmark. But if I was like new to the business or not at the volume we were at and whatever, like, yeah, I totally would have two stores and just do it that way. Um, I don't see a reason why not to. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, you're increasing efficiency in a thrift store, right? Because there's half the store's men's clothing and then half of it's women's clothing. So if you're in both categories, you don't have to go to as many stores. You just go to the one, hit the entire store, and then take your stuff for Poshmark and list it on Poshmark and take it for eBay and list it on eBay. And I don't know. That's just sort of my view. I know a lot of people are all for cross listing on YouTube and all that stuff. I literally spent like 4 hours going through a pro and cons list for small sellers just starting, medium sellers, large sellers, and the cons always outweighed the pros in the long term. So I'm completely against it in all forms. But that's just me. You can hate me if you are all for cross listing. It's just my opinion. Happy to chat about it any time with anyone who wants to go through the pros and cons.
I cross list and I don't hate you, Michael.
Yeah. Well,
The comment section may say otherwise.
yeah, maybe so. We'll see.
Michael found a puppy tooth Xenia blazer, maybe houndstooth.
Yeah,
Is puppy tooth a different thing, or
no,
is it just like
houndstooth.
being cutesy? There's a tiny hole pea size. Is it still worth listing? And what
I'd
would you
list
list
it.
it for?
I'd list it for $50 and see if it sells. Maybe more than that, honestly. You never know. Depends on where the
Yeah, I
hole
don't
is.
sell a lot of blazers, but I feel like a blazer is something that if somebody really wanted it, they could probably get that fixed or repaired, or
Yeah, or if
something
it
like designer like that.
yeah, or if it's in a spot that's not very like if it's on the front of it, that's a different story, right? But if it's on the back or if it's like on the sleeve somewhere, might not be as important. But I mean, you already bought the thing, so I'd at least list it because it's a higher dollar item, being a Zegna blazer. That's wool. That's houndstooth. Just use that keyword hounds. Don't put puppy tooth in the title. Put houndstooth in the title, and you probably will be able to sell it for at least 40-50 bucks, I'd assume, even with the hole that's the size of a pea.
And that's the thing, like, and we will get into this if we even make it further into the list on how to increase sell-through rate, but pricing is like so important when it comes to selling items. So if your item is, so say the market for that blazer is $100, but it has a small hole, well, at $30 you might still have a market, or at $20 even. I mean, I don't know how big the hole is or what the market is on Xenia blazers. I don't do a lot of blazers personally.
Yeah,
um,
the blazers are all over the place. Like a Xenia blazer might go for $50, but I've sold them for $200. So the houndstooth ones that are wool definitely a higher in the price spectrum of I always say Zegna blazers. I'm just gonna keep calling it that Zegna blazer. So yeah,
You guys can
um,
roast whichever one of us is wrong.
no, you're right. I've just said Zegna for so long; it's just ingrained in my habits of saying it. I don't think I'll ever be able to change. So
You can't teach that old puppy tooth new tricks.
yeah, yeah.
Wendy says, any extra keywords I can't fit in the title I put in theme? I do
Yeah.
the same as well, and I really have no idea how that affects performance. But like I said, a lot of my data, like I sell what I list. And so, I mean, it's working for
It
me. So
works. Yeah, what that tactic works perfectly. So keep doing that.
Matney resells white vinegar and baking soda helps with the thrift smells. It's good to know. Cam is worried about looking through the women's clothing because people might think he's weird. And it's not weird.
Say you're
Just say you're
hunting for your
shopping for
wife.
your girlfriend or
Yeah,
shopping for your mom.
yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to say anything because nobody's gonna ask. No, literally nobody will care. But I do
Oh,
understand that, like, I feel the same. I feel the same when it comes to like filming. And then I'm like, why do I care? No, literally nobody, nobody cares if I'm have my phone out. Or like when I first started, I was afraid to like look up items, thinking that the
yes.
thrift store was gonna care that I was looking up the items. Like,
Yeah. I think
uh,
everyone goes through that, and then you realize that the thrift stores literally live off of you paying them, so
yeah. Okay, so William called it puppy tooth because it's small hound's tooth. So there was some reason. It wasn't just a cutesy answer.
okay. Sweet.
All right. So back to how to sell our items faster while some more questions load up here. We've kind of already touched on this. And so I promote my items at 5%, and Michael and Kendall, they promote their items at 10%. And so I really think that promoted listings is a huge, 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 huge piece to selling quickly. I do, with the inventory that I source and I currently have in my store, I could not sell 1,200 items in 90 days if I did not promote my listings. It's just
Have you
math.
have you ever experimented with it? Like, have you ever tried turning it off? Have you ever tried changing the percent lower? Have you ever done like how long have you run 5% for?
A year?
Okay, and then have you tried changing it since that year of starting it?
I haven't tried it.
Okay. Well, don't because it's really bad. I honestly think eBay like sort of realized like, oh, they're willing to pay the 5% or oh, they're willing to pay the 10%. And the second you turn it off, they reduce exposure to absolutely zero. So I've
I've
experimented
heard
with
that.
yeah, I've experimented with it a lot. And every time I turn it off, I'm like my blood starts boiling whenever I see the promoted fees that I'm getting. I'm like, dude, we'd be making like 50 G's more if we just didn't promote a year and then turn it off and I'm like I can't last 3 days without it off because the sales are just so bad. So it stays on, but
Okay, I won't mess with it. Thanks for the
yeah,
uh
yeah, it definitely
thanks for doing
works
that so
though.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
The next thing, so kind of just going working down that listing, is the return policy, and I'd also add in the shipping policy because that was one thing that you mentioned with having competitive shipping prices. So we both have flat rate shipping. So when someone buys an item that say it's 12 ounces from me, I personally charge 650, which actually is a little on the high side, especially with all the new cubic rates and whatnot. But I kind of had that set before the eBay shipping change, and that was competitive at the time. And I haven't seen the dip in sales that's kind of spurring me to lower it. So right now I make on average over $1 on every item that I ship out, just on the shipping. But if I did calculated shipping, it would still be charging the buyer like $7-8.
Oh, it's more
So
than
they're
that
still
now.
getting a competitive rate.
Yeah, it's way more than that now with the new shipping program. That's why I switched because they're just charging way too much to the buyers. I mean, people in Cali were being charged like minimum $15 and they're being charged $10 for first class. I was like, dude, that's insane because we literally pay half that for shipping there.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy. $10 for first class.
yeah,
We'll be there before we know it, guys. Don't worry.
give it a couple years.
And then also return policy. So, what's the return policy on your store?
Free 30-day, I think. Yeah.
Okay, I do buyer pays returns for 30 days. Of course, like if it's my mistake, I will pay shipping both ways because it's just my mistake, and that's just the right thing to do. And eBay would, want me to do that and make me do that.
Well, it's in
But
the
if
it's
it's
in the
like,
terms. It's in the terms of service. You have to.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
don't have
they're
a
gonna.
choice.
I don't have a choice. Um, I mean, people will. I guess I'm more meaning like when somebody doesn't put in the right thing.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
So like somebody puts in doesn't fit, and then it's like seller sent me the wrong size is the comment, or
Right.
something like that,
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I kind of threw that in there. But yeah, so I do buyer paid returns. Michael does free returns, but I definitely think, especially if you're selling used clothing, that a return policy is absolutely necessary because not a lot of people are going to take the gamble on a used piece of clothing without the even possibility of returning it, just because there's so much nuance to it. We've all ordered like something online that is our size and tried it on and it doesn't fit like it should. Of course, we do provide measurements, so we're trying to eliminate that, but people really don't watch or pay attention to that.
No, they don't. Yeah. And the other thing I noticed, I don't know if you've ever looked at your returns and the percentages, but the higher the dollar of the item is, the higher your return rate is typically. Just an interesting fact. So obviously people are more motivated to return an item and actually return it if it's a more expensive item. Like my return rate for anything under $35 is like 2%, but then anything above like $60 is like 5%. So 2.5 times whenever you get to the higher dollar stuff. So,
Yeah, I mean, if you're forking out more money, you're definitely going to be more picky with, you know, what that item is when you get it. And even just like the cost of doing the return. So, like in my case, they're paying shipping to them, which I'm making a couple dollars on, and they're paying the shipping back to me. So it kind of keeps my return rate pretty low because a lot of the items I sell are between $20 and $30. And so is somebody really going to pay $10 to get $20 back and the hassle?
right.
So I'm not saying like that they can't do that and shouldn't be able to do that because they should. It's part of the return policy. But I think just the psychology of that math kind of keeps my return rate very low. But as soon as the numbers go up, the return rate does go up because, would you pay $10 to get $100 back? Well, anybody would do that.
Yeah, I also think it's a laziness thing. I think a lot of, especially guys, and this is not like a sexist comment, but just generally speaking, guys are just lazy in the sense that you go buy something, you don't even want to have to go and return it. Like if it's a half size too big, you just wear it, right? Or a size too big, you just wear it. Whereas women are like, I've got to go return this because it doesn't fit perfectly. I've got to go do that for like even $5 back. And we're just like, screw it, it works, whatever, it's functional. So I think that's part of it. Like if it's a $20 return, most people just won't go through the return because they just don't want to have to go to the post office, repackage it, relabel it, all that stuff. So that's one of the reasons why we got into men's clothing. I think they're just guys are a lot more lax whenever it comes to clothing fitting them and stuff.
Yeah, I think there's like that piece of like going through the process of the return, but it's also like the fit doesn't even have to be perfect. Like if it gets the job done, like I'm not gonna complain about it. I'm just gonna carry
Yeah.
on because I have to go through the whole process again if I want to find something better. And also, like if the item fits really well, like I've had some buyers like leave feedback where it's like, didn't realize there was a small stain on the back, but the item fit great, and it was positive feedback. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to leave any flaws out. I point and try to make as big of a deal about flaws as I can because I just want to be upfront. But the truth is, with most guys, if it fits well, it's a done deal.
Oh yeah.
So
No doubt.
let's catch up on some comments here. Wendy says, "Guy resellers I know grab women's from the new rack." Yeah, if there's a great women's item on the new rack, I'm grabbing it for sure.
Judy Blues.
Guys who don't pick up women's clothing are missing out.
Dude,
I say,
I was gonna
go ahead.
say there are so many men's clothes. I don't know about your stores there, but like especially the Goodwills here, they put so many men's clothings in the women's section. Like Kendall will be going through the women's stuff, and then she's finding Lululemon ABC pants and stuff like that that are men's in the women's section. So a lot of the men's stuff we find is literally just buried in the women's section, and it's never touched by a guy resell. It's like in that happy spot. Like you typically have women resellers, like people who do women's clothing, and then people who do men's. But if they're in the women's section, they don't really get the men's stuff. And if they're in the men's section, they're on the women's. So it's like that sweet spot. So we get a lot of stuff from the women's section that is actually men's.
Yeah, and I mean, I found some really good women's items in the men's section too. So thrift store employees aren't doing a lot of brand research, on eBay like we are. So it's our job to be able to pick those out. I mean, Frank and Eileen is a big one because I think their women's shirts still have the buttons on the men's side, or there's something like that. So a lot of times the Frank and Eileen shirts will end up in the men's section.
Yeah, I
I
found
found some
many.
Duluth flannels that were like in a women's plus size, which had a surprisingly good sell through rate back at that time, like I think in the fall. All right, Pam says, I've gone clothes shopping with my daughter. Even here in a small Midwestern town, no one pays attention. Yeah, I don't think people really care what you're doing. People are really focused about themselves. Sanders says, how soon do you list the items of your that you pick up? Today I went sourcing and I sourced 20 some items and I listed them all today.
Yeah, but did you list the items that you sourced today? Like, do you keep a running pile going, or do you just list the day you get them? Because I think that's sort of what he's asking. Like, do you list your items the day you get them, or do you like wait to list them because you have other stuff to list?
In a perfect world, I'm like a little bit ahead on inventory. But I guess I took the question a different way. I don't have a death pile. So things are getting listed basically within a week.
Yeah,
So that's
same here.
that's the short version is in less than a week, my stuff's getting up. Like today, my big thrift day is Thursday, so I was short from last week. So the last 3 days, I've gone out every single day to try to get enough to list, and I come home and I list it. After Thursday, I'll have enough to list for 4 or 5 days. But either way, like I guess from my perspective of the question, as soon as I buy it, I'm listing it.
Yeah.
Pam says I got virtually zero sales without promoting. I only promote at 2%, but has made a noticeable difference. And I think that's kind of what you were saying, Michael, is like if you don't go straight for 10%, you can maybe get away with a lower percent. But once you're
Oh
like
yeah.
buried in at 10%, you can't go back to 2% or you're going to get killed.
Yeah, like whenever I was speaking earlier about turning them off, I meant like turning them off, lowering them to 5%, lowering them to 2%, lowering them to 7%. Every single change, it like shocked the entire store. And so just be careful with that, Pam. As you increase, you're gonna feel it whenever you decrease. And as for everyone, if you turn on promoted, you're gonna feel the pain whenever you decrease that number. So but it's gonna
Yep, I
feel good.
agree.
It's gonna feel good whenever you increase it. I'll tell you what. You turn that thing on, and it starts printing money, as Taylor Exchange will tell you. So
Was he not promoting at all?
no, he didn't promote ever, and I've been preaching to him for months to promote, and then he finally did, and his sales doubled. He's
I
about to be
saw
able
that
to.
he had like a crazy sales when he turned them on, but I didn't realize he was literally doing zero.
Yeah, he has always done zero, and he was always like a 25% sell through rate store. Now he's like, he said he's going to be like, I just talked to him today. He's going to be like 75K for his 90-day total here in like a month. So and he was at like nowhere near that before. Like he never had a $20,000 day before or $20,000
There you
month
go.
before.
There you go. William says, I look at the women's new racks when they roll out, grab the Lulu and the Patagonia. Absolutely. And he charges $8.95 for clothing and $14.95 for cowboy boots and bigger jackets. Yeah, I do $4.95 for boots and like, Carhartts and stuff. And I would say like $8.95 seems a little bit much for like, say like a polo or a button down. But if you're making the sales, it doesn't matter. Ground Advantage has made me quite a bit extra monthly. Yeah, Derby City Flip. I agree. That's been a nice little change with the shipping. I want to make a video on this, but I actually use 15 by 12, I think it is, or something like that, poly bags. And I put the item in sideways and then fold the top over. And it makes the final package 12 by 8 by 3, which is a lower cubic rate than just putting in the bag dimensions flat. And so a lot of my stuff is shipping $6 or under $6 even. I think it's like the lowest cubic rate you can send. I mean, maybe there's a smaller one, but you wouldn't be able to do it with like a article of clothing. But even to like from Ohio to California, a pair of jeans is $8. Ground Advantage, which I still do put those in a flat rate envelope because it's the same price and it's faster. But that's a really good deal, in my opinion. Jared says hello. What's up, Jared? Curb Surfer. Could Caleb go over how to date a pair of Levi's? I have 3 pair of older Levi's that are 36 by 36. That's a great size.
Yeah, you should make a video on that, dude, because I had no clue how to date them or anything like that.
I don't see anything on a button or on the back of a button. Tag says made in Haiti. So I honestly don't, I'm not like truly an expert. I just know enough to be dangerous. I've never seen ones made in Haiti, so I would be slightly skeptical right off the rip, because I know, like, obviously older ones are made in USA. I know they made some in Canada. The jacket I found on my last video was made in Canada. I know they have a lot of the South American countries and Central American countries that I've seen are Colombia, Guatemala, Mexico, Honduras. I've never seen Haiti. So I'm not saying that, it couldn't be legit, but I've never seen that. But really what you're doing is you're looking at the back of the care tag and you're trying to find the factory code, which is typically on the back of the very front button. And then that lets you know what line the date is on. So typically the numbers right after that code are the date. So say the factory code is 549, it'll say 549. And then next to that, it'll say 1093. And that's October of 93. So that's like a very general explanation. I don't have any handy, so I can't go too detailed into it, but that is a good thing to make a video on. Loot Fam, I think, is the YouTuber that does like a lot of vintage clothing, dating, that kind of thing. Matney says, if or when you guys did calculated shipping, how much do you think offering discounted shipping to buyers affects sales? I've been doing flat rate shipping for so long that I don't know if I really have like a major thing. So I can maybe let Michael speak to this, because I think you guys just recently made the change in the last couple months or so.
Yeah, let me read the question. Sorry, Kendall is going to bed and texting me. If or when you guys calculate, how much do you think offering discount shipping to buyers affects sales? I can't really track it, because whenever we did the change, we changed a couple other things. And so it's pretty hard for us to tell. I mean, it obviously increases sales because the cost of shipping is going down. So like we were talking about earlier, pricing is a huge thing. So like the lower the sell-through rate, the lower the pricing you want to be compared to the other competitors and stuff like that. Shipping plays a role in that. Whenever people filter low to high on pricing, it is doing the total cost. So it's doing the list price plus the shipping, and it's filtering it low to high. And so just decreasing that price obviously decreases the average sale price, thus increasing the sales. So it definitely increases it. I just don't know how much of an increase it is and how much it actually impacts it. It might be like 1 extra order for every month. It might be 100 extra orders for every month. I just don't know. So
yeah, the biggest thing is you're just lowering the overall cost. And so when people go to eBay to buy something, they're typically going there because they're a cost conscious buyer, because most of the time you can just go buy these items new if you weren't worried about costs at all. Now, of course, there are things that are rare and collectible and you can't find, and all those things are completely different, way of the buyers finding your item. But for the most part, people are just looking for a deal. So there are things that can elevate your value, so people are willing to pay more, like quality feedback and having a reputable store, having a good condition item, like if it's in next to perfect condition, having the best pattern, having the best color. All those things are increasing value, so somebody might pay higher. But if you're looking at one item and another item that are exactly the same right next to each other, people are going to pick the cheaper one. And so that's where the shipping cost really comes into play, is just making your item slightly cheaper, but you're still getting enough from the shipping charge so that you're still, having a profitable business.
Yeah. I'll also say on top of that, I have had instances in the past where a buyer has messaged me like with an offer, like, hey, will you take this? There's someone else who has this exact item listed at a cheaper price. And then I go find the item and it's like this unreputable store, doesn't accept returns, blah, blah, blah. And so I messaged him like, no, I'm not going to accept your offer. I'll do this price. But the listing you're referencing is from someone who's not reputable. If you get the item and it doesn't fit, you can't return it. And X, Y, and Z. So all the things that we've been talking about, and they end up going with me over that other buyer, even though my item is more expensive by 20% or whatever it is. So having the returns thing is a huge deal, as well as all the other things that we have mentioned so far throughout the live.
Lisa says, where do you do all your research?
eBay.
Yep, me too.
Looking up comps on eBay.
Wendy says, come to Canada. We can talk about shipping costs. I don't even want to know. James says, I pay for Sizely on my measurements. Put it on the second photo. Haven't had a return in over 2 years. Is that like an app that takes measurements for your items? Might have to Google that. Never heard of it.
Sizely. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Alex says, I found several Frank and Eileen in the men's sections. I found a few there. DMNC says, I pick up only women's jeans. I can't deal with women's tops. There are so many styles. Yeah, that's women's tops is one where the item specifics and really being an expert would like be really key. I mean, there's just so many more variations and little nuanced differences that you'd really need to know. And that's why, like, luckily the women's items I'm sourcing are probably the ones that are basically like more unisex items or items that are extremely similar to other men's items that I already sell, like jeans or like a Patagonia Better sweater. Like, it's the exact same thing as an item I already buy and sell. So I can transfer that knowledge over really easily. But as far as, some detailed blouse, I'm not going to know how to, item specific that or keyword that appropriately. Okay, people are finding lots of Frank and Eileen's in the men's section, so glad I was right.
Yeah.
Jared says he charges $7.95 for Ground Advantage and $8.95 for Priority, and $12.99 or $18.95 for heavy stuff. See, I think we're all kind of in the same ballpark there. But the crazy thing is, like on the heavy stuff, if you put those dimensions in and let them calculate it, it could be like 50, 60 bucks that they're charging the buyer, and you're never going to sell that item because, yeah. Nothing on the back button of Levi's is sus. I agree. If there's nothing on the back button, that's where they put the factory code. So I would say that's that plus made in Haiti. I'd definitely do some research before you list those. Do you do postage refunds on combined sales or only if they ask? That's a really good segue into, one of the things that we want to talk about are promotions that you can run on your eBay store. And that would include marking down your item as like running a sale. So just marking down the price. You can do a coupon. You can send out a newsletter that includes that coupon. And then one of the things that you can add into the coupon is combining shipping or doing like a buy one, get one kind of situation. So Michael, do you guys run any of those types of things in your store?
Yeah. So whenever I was saying earlier that whenever we changed the shipping policy, we also changed this. So this played a role, which skewed the shipping policy change to flat rate numbers. So we started, this isn't a marketing thing, like it's not underneath the marketing section, it's underneath your shipping policy section. But whenever buyers add items to their cart, it automatically underneath the shipping policies combines the shipping rate for us. And so we have, like we've said, flat rate shipping. Every item they add, so if they buy 2 things, it adds $2 on top of that. Like if the shipping's $5.99, every item that they add adds $2 to that cost. So it automatically combines it. So instead of being $5.99, it's $7.99 for 2 items, and then $9.99 for 3 items, $11.99 for 4 items, so on and so forth. as well as the more they buy, the more of a discount they get on said items. So we start at, I think for 2 items, it's like 10%, 3 items, it's 12%, and then 4 items, it's 15%, because 15% is like our cutoff. Like we do not accept offers or anything like that below 15%. That's just our cutoff. That's what we've always done. Um, once every blue moon we do if an item's been sitting for more than 6 months, but for the most part, we don't accept offers for more than that. So we do that cutoff. So that means that they have to add the item to their cart, and then it gives them that discount plus combined shipping. So we get a lot of multi-order quantity orders from having that on our store. And I do think that it helps substantially with promoting sales. And then for those of you who follow me, you know that we started doing ties. We do the same thing, but free shipping and buy one, get one half off for the ties. So all of those things have helped. Half of our tie sales are people buying 2 ties at a time. So buy one, get one half off. And then we get, almost every other day we have a multi-quantity order going out. So what about you? Do you do any of that stuff?
Yeah, no, I love hearing all that stuff. I honestly don't really have much that set up. So I do actually go in and manually, fix the shipping when the buyer asks for it. So I guess I can speak to this question directly on postage refunds. I really only do it when they ask, and it's not really out of I'm trying to make that extra money. It's mostly just because I don't really keep track of when I'm getting a multiple quantity order, because most times when I get a multi-quantity order, because I don't have those coupons, they just come in as individual sales, because there's really no benefit to them adding them to their cart at the same time, and there's no real like marketing on my store around that. And so I don't really know about that until I actually go to ship the item. And so, of course, if they message me, I'm always happy to, work out a fair price with them. I usually just say like, this is what the price would be for shipping 2 items. Is that okay with you? And then 9 times out of 10, it's yes, because I'm just trying to, pick a fair price. So I kind of am doing that old school. I have thought about going in and just like putting that little thing that you're talking about where every additional item is a certain amount, just because that might increase, obviously, the combined, sales, people buying more items. But once again, I don't, that's not something that I'm like eagerly trying to add to my business, because I personally don't think my store is really big enough to get a lot of multi-quantity orders. Like at 1,200 items and selling through 1,200 in 90 days, like the chances of me having 2 or 3 items that would be for the same person would honestly be pretty rare. And so it happens rarely, but it's not something I go out of my way to do.
Yeah, I'll say before we jump to the next question, the reason why I actually switched is because of sort of what you're talking about, where you have people message and like, oh, how much is it if I buy this, 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 and this, and they're linking all these things and stuff like that. The reason why I set it up actually was not to promote higher sales. It was so I didn't have to deal with that BS. So instead, whenever I get that message, I just say, add them all to your cart. The total price that you see there is the best offer we can give you. And they're either good with it or they're not good with it. I don't have to deal with messaging them back and forth going, oh, this is what the shipping would be. This is what these discounts would be, blah, blah, blah. So I just wanted to remove the customer support aspect whenever I've got those questions. And I can tell you that it worked. I mean, I get the question, I just say that response, and then they either buy it all or they don't buy it all. And it saves a lot of time dealing with messages and stuff like that. So if you're interested in not having to deal with that anymore, definitely set it up.
I agree. And that would be my biggest motivation, because I'm not really concerned about getting more like multi-quantity buyers. I really just, like you said, I don't really want to be going back and forth and saying, okay, I can do $7 on the shipping, or, going back and forth with them, because, sometimes they don't even tell you what the item is. Like, okay, I can do $7 for 2 items. Okay, I'll take that Carhartt jacket. Okay, well, just the Carhartt jacket is going to be $14 to ship. It's actually not that much anymore.
Yeah, and I think something to mention in that topic is that there's obviously a pattern with creating like defined rules for your business. So there's defined cutoffs of what you would accept for a discount. There's defined cutoffs for what you charge for shipping, and creating those definitions is very important, because it's a rule book. It's a business strategy. It's how you be successful in your business. So for me, like I said, like I don't accept offers that are lower than 15%. I don't care what it is, right? Like we obviously decrease price over time and all that, and then 15% off of that. But the point is that like there is a rule for everything in our business, and it increases the efficiency because we don't have to think about like, oh, would we take $20 off of this item? It's like, okay, well, what's 15% off of that? It's super easy to do. So I think creating rules and business strategies and stuff in your business is super important and allows you to scale like no other, because you're just literally following a rule book that you created. And if it doesn't work after a couple months, then tweak it a little bit and make it a little bit better to where it does work. So
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that really helps with efficiency. And for me, like I've been kind of on the fence, teetering back and forth, like about potentially hiring somebody to do a little bit of part time work. And it's like, especially when I have somebody else doing it, it has to be exactly the same every time. I can't expect them to just make the decision like in an instant, like I do, just from experience. There has to be a set, defined way to do every little thing. And, you know, it's really difficult to get to that point. But if you can get to that point, like you said, it really, you know, makes your business more profitable, more scalable, way more efficient. All those things are going to increase. And, you know, if you guys wanted to add more to your team over the time, you already have those in place and you can just tell them this is, you know, what it is. Or if you wanted to outsource your customer service, not saying I'd really recommend that
no.
for this business, but just as a business principle, if you want to start outsourcing things, you know, you have to have a rule because you're not going to be there to make that decision every time.
Yeah, and I think that that's sort of whenever we were talking earlier about the keywords in the description, I was like, oh, I just do title, picture, and then promote. Like the reason why I don't do all those keywords is so that in the future, whenever we do hire, those people that we hire are going to get so confused whenever it comes to those keywords, but they're going to understand the rules of, okay, this is the title structure, this is the picture system, this is this. We don't have to worry about, oh, what's a French cuff? What's this? What's that? Whenever you're going through all those little keywords in the bottom, and the promoted kicks in. And so, yeah, I think if you have the desire to hire people in the future, definitely, even if it's a year or two down the road, you need to be thinking about it now, what it looks like in your business to make it easiest to hire people and outsource. Because whenever you get to that point, if you're not set up for it, it is a pain in the butt to shift everything to where you can outsource, whether it's someone coming in and doing pictures or pulling orders and packaging. A lot of people start with a VA. I don't know if that's what you were thinking of starting with, was having a virtual assistant, just make your listings or whatever, but that's typically where people start, and then they do pictures after that. But yeah, you definitely have to set up your business to where it's made for anyone. Like you could explain it to a kindergartner and they'd sort of understand what's going on. So, which is possible in this business, which is nice. I mean, you could teach anyone how to do what we're doing besides sourcing. So,
Yeah. And I've been thinking about just like, you know, every day of the week, I have a very similar routine. Like my Mondays look similar every Monday and my Tuesdays look similar every Tuesdays. And I was thinking I should just document, just write out what I do on every single day and then use that as a starting point for figuring out, you know, what those processes are. And, you know, I'm kind of in the journey of trying to figure out, you know, what do I do that's the same every time? And what do I do that is kind of nuanced that I need to figure out what the rule is.
right.
All right, let's catch up here a little bit. William says Loot Fam has amazing detailed video on dating Levi's. Yeah, I just recently looked up one of his videos to answer one of my questions, so I agree. Lisa's asking about the photo station. It's right there, and I actually made a copy of Michael's photo station. He has a video on his channel, which is linked down below, by the way. So if you're not following or subscribing to their channel, definitely go down in the description, open up a new tab. Don't leave. Open up a new tab, right click, and hit the subscribe button on their channel. But they have a video on their photo station, and I just made mine very similar to his. I mean, my lights are different, my fabric's different, but the main core structure, yeah, the structure is just word for word what they did, because they already did the hard work of designing that for me. So,
and I don't recommend the lights that I use in that video. It's to save space in our house. So
yeah, it's what works for your space.
Yeah, the lights you have in the background, I wish I had room for, but I don't have room for them. So I've got to use these light bars and stuff. So
what's really nice is just I got these like lights that are in my garage on like a Walmart clearance, and they're like the perfect temperature. So I really just have those other lights as like kind of like to get the shadows out.
Yeah,
So
yeah, fill
I'm
lights a
at a
little bit.
really good starting place already, which is really nice.
Yeah.
James says the app is $9.99 a month and it's a write-off to take pictures. So, or to take measurements in your pictures. I have to check it out. Lisa says, this has been discussed a million times, but can you tell me if there's a science to the layout of title? And is it same across platforms? We really are experts or trying to be experts of eBay. So I can't really say on Poshmark what's the best title structure or on Mercari or whatever else. But on eBay, we both, and we talked about this earlier. If you want a more in-depth, you can check out the replay and we go deeper into this, but I'll just hit it quick for you. It is the brand, the item type, the gender, the size, the color, the pattern, and then your keywords after that. So that was probably quick, but you can replay that. Just click back. You got it. Derby City Flip says, how much of your guys' inventory is thrifted versus retail arbitrage? Do you guys do any retail arbitrage?
Nope.
So they're 100% thrifted. I would say at this point in my business, I'm 90% thrifted goods.
Yeah, I can't get behind the margin of retail arbitrage. So
Lisa says newsletter. Yeah, once you have enough followers to your store, you can send them like a little newsletter about your business. I've never utilized it, so I can't really speak too much on it, but it's just a way of communicating with potential return buyers.
is that where you send like a coupon code to, or is that just like a legit newsletter? Do you know?
You can just send them a newsletter. I've only seen it really used when you include a coupon to try to drive some traffic.
Yeah.
But you can just create a special coupon that is like for people that receive your newsletter. That's how I've seen it utilized in other people's businesses, but I've never done it. So
Yeah,
can't say.
Kendall did it once. She sent a coupon to all buyers that have ever bought anything from our store, and it equated to 0 sales. So I don't know if it works.
Real tempting.
Yeah.
Jared says, if all those items are jeans, isn't your shipping going to be more than they pay? I think maybe going back to the $7.95.
No, so the most I pay for jean shipping is $7, and the example I used earlier was $5.99, but for pants we do $7.99, and so if it's more than $7, you can put it in a priority flat rate envelope, and it's what is it now, $7.90 or something, $8. So we either break even on shipping or we make $1 at most on shipping, but yeah. So we do $5.99, $7.99, $9.99, and $12.99, and that's shirts and stuff, pants, and then like sweaters and shoes, and then cowboy boots and coats is the $12.99. So $12.99 is the most we do, and $5.99 is the cheapest we do. But we never lose money on shipping.
Lisa says, do either of you guys do live selling, Posh or whatnot? I do not. You guys sell anything live?
No, I don't think so. I didn't even know Poshmark did lives.
Yeah, I've never attended a show or hosted a show, so I couldn't tell you anything about it. But I do see the little tab on there when I'm in there. It says Posh live shows or something like that. So
yeah, no, I've never done them. I got a buddy who does whatnot full time, and he makes a lot of money doing it, but I haven't ventured into it at all.
Is that in like a certain category?
So he was actually an eBay reseller, and he started 3 years ago, and I met him at his like 16-month mark, and he had just a quick backstory. This guy is like super wealthy, had a lot of cash to started with $250,000, the eBay reselling business, and just did it for fun, really. But he built wholesale connections with distributors, and so he was getting 18-wheelers delivered to his warehouse of just basically what thrift stores buy, and then listing it on eBay. And then Whatnot sort of started blowing up, so he tried that, and it just took off. And so So yeah, now he like orders wholesale by the 18 wheeler, gets delivered now to his house because he closed the storage facility, and then he auctions everything off on Whatnot. And I think he does like 100K a month in revenue, and probably profits like 20% of that. So 20 to 30%, I assume. So
That's crazy.
it's all clothing. It's all men's and women's clothing, to answer your
Okay.
question. But it's like
Okay.
it's like lower tiered stuff. It's not Robax, it's not Peter Millards, it's none of that stuff. It's like your mid to low tier stuff. Like his average profit, like his average cost of goods is like $1.75 to $1. His average profit after fees and stuff is $3. So it's really low tier stuff. But again, this is Whatnot, right? Like his average
Yeah, you
sale.
can sell like hundreds of items in one day.
Yeah, and his average sale price on eBay at the time was $21, and his 90-day total was like 230,000 or something. So yeah,
That's a lot of items.
yeah,
That is a lot of
yeah,
items.
yep.
Curb Surfer says, not at home going from memory, not USA or Canada, but can't remember the country. So we're not saying they're for sure fake yet. So like probably Honduras if you remembered H, because I know there's a lot from Honduras. Good size 3636. I would say, and I see here you also said they're 501 button flies. If they're vintage 501 button flies and 36 by 36, I think I'd need to know more details to give you exact price, but I would say 25 to 30 is too low based on just those details personally. Alex wants to know your best flip. Do you have one that comes to mind? It doesn't have to be your very best, but
I'll let you share yours first. I'll probably share two. One being like one singular item, and then like the best like one store craziness thing that happens. So
yeah, I always struggle with this question because I'm still like waiting for like this absolutely insane like, you know, thing.
$20,000 fine. Yeah.
And I've sold like really, really good items, but a lot of the really good items I've sold, I've paid a lot for. At my main thrift store I go to, they are not afraid to put a $300 price tag on an item. And if I can sell it for 500, I will pay $300.
Really?
So, I mean, that might not be the perfect example,
Yeah, I was
but
about to say maybe like 200 and a 500, but not 300 and a 5.
I mean, depends on how fast it sold, to be honest. If it was like a guaranteed home run, like a vintage Filson jacket or something, I mean, I'll take the $100. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
So I have lots of expensive items, but a lot of them I've spent tons of money on. So to me, that's not like the true nature of this question. So the true nature of this question, I would say my best find is I found a vintage T-shirt on the racks at a thrift store at a place where I still source and find hardly anything. So it still is like so laughable. I found this amazing vintage t-shirt, but it was a vintage liquid blue, all over print with the fire breathing dragons and all that. I literally thought it was fake when I found it because I just thought there was no way it'd be in this random thrift store in the middle of nowhere. And that was back when vintage was crazy, and it sold in like a day for I think 350. So that's like my go-to, my true thrifted, like 3 into 350. That's like my best flip, I guess.
I mean, I have a lot that are pretty tied, but the most recent single item that sold that was the most like highest average sale price. It was actually in one of my videos, but it was a Versace button-down shirt. Paid 50 for it, and it sold in a week for 680. And then the I'll just share one of them because it was a thrift store. The other one was Facebook Marketplace, which I won't talk about because I was crazy. But the thrift store, like best, like walking in a thrift store and finding like all this stuff in one thrift store was, I went into the Plaza. If you're in Dallas, Plaza Thrift up in McKinney, and they had literally like one ball hit on each club. They had like brand spanking new PXG sets, like in like hard, and like they were expensive. Like they're 50 to 70 bucks a club, but I sold them all with like in a week for like 200 bucks a club, 150 a club on average. But they had
Wow.
19 PXG clubs and no iron sets. It was all wedges, which is great, and all drivers and hybrids, which is even better. And yeah, I think I paid $1,100 out the door for all 19 of them. and they all sold in a week for like 3 or 4 grand. So I've had bigger buyouts and stuff like that than that deal, but that was like probably the craziest like thrift store, like one stop and whatever. So
That's amazing. Since I enjoy playing golf, like it doesn't fit my business model at all, but I still like flip golf clubs so that I can like keep stuff and put it in my golf bag and then sell what I have and like do
oh,
that for
same.
free.
Yeah. Yeah. My whole bag is like from the thrift store and it's a really nice bag of stuff. Like, yeah. Yeah. Definitely. That's the way to do
Yep.
it.
All right. Well, it is getting late and I gotta get to bed here because of my big sourcing days tomorrow. And here on the East Coast, it's almost 11 o'clock. So let's try to go rapid fire. I stink at doing this because I'm long winded, but let's try to go rapid fire here. Strategy for decreasing prices.
We just decrease like 5% every month. So that's it. Just go in and decrease price 5% and wait till it sells.
Yep, I go into the promotions tab and I do like different timing categories. So I do like after 45 days, I do 10% off. After 100 days, I do 25% off. And after a year, I do like 60 to 80% off, depending on how aggressively I don't want these horrible items that are no good. Just open an eBay store, watch both of your videos every day. Especially Michael's. So you got the upper hand. He has a question. Oh, it's probably down here. Okay, we already went over price deductions. If you guys scale and hire, would love to watch along the journey. Yeah, I'll definitely be documenting it if I hire anyone. I think for me, I would love to find somebody local that could do shipping and photography for me, just so I could spend more time sourcing, raise my ASP, list more items, make more money. Why do I get 0 views even if it's a Russell Athletic University sweatshirt? Just named one as an example. Views on eBay, I don't really think they're accurate to
Agreed.
what is
100%.
actually happening. And honestly, if one person viewed your item, but it was the buyer for your item would have 0 views and sell. So I don't think views is something to look at. That'd be my opinion on that.
Yeah, it only takes one person to buy your item. If 100 people look at it for views, it means nothing unless someone buys it. So
Solomon says, how many clothing items do you need to have in your inventory before you start seeing sales? If they're items that sell really fast, you'll start seeing them as soon as you have any items in your store. But if you have really slow selling items, it could take hundreds, maybe thousands of items to see consistent sales. So I would recommend on sourcing really good inventory and using some of the other tips we talked about with having a really good listing and using the promotions available to get your items sold. But I would say a good rule of thumb is if you have maybe 100 to 200 items, you'd probably want to start seeing sales, every day, every other day, every couple of days, or you might want to make a serious change to get some faster selling items.
yeah, I think I'm going to tack on to that. I think the general rule of thumb for the clothing industry, if you have a really good store, is that for every 100 items you have active, you make 1 sale a day. So if you've got 1,000 active, you're making 10 sales a day. That will lead you to a 100% sell-through rate store, which is typically the benchmark that people aim for with their eBay stores in the clothing category.
Nick says, what's average order a week? In the last 90 days, I've sold 1,200 items. So however many that is over per day for 90 days. I have recently upped my listings to 18 per day. So pretty soon I am going to have more listed than I have sold, but hoping that I can, keep selling more items as that continues to happen. Do you know how many you've sold in the last 90 days or month or whatever is easiest to calculate?
We do 30,000 a month right now, and I think we've sold 900 this month, past 31 days. So 900 quantity, $30,000.
Oh, he meant on a multi-item sale, if they buy 3 pairs of jeans with the discount, do you still cover shipping with what they pay? I think what he was saying is it adds $2 every time. So 3 pairs of jeans would still only cost like $10 pretty much anywhere. And with his model, that'd be $7.99 plus 4, so $12. So he's still making out on that.
Yeah.
Been thinking of incorporating lives for death pile and stale inventory. I think that's most people's thought when it comes to live selling, but I think that it would be hard to get an engaged audience if you were selling stuff that you weren't able to sell on eBay. So that's kind of why I'm hesitant to go that route with Whatnot. I think if I found something that was providing value for the buyer, whether that's resellers or giving people really good items at a discount where I was getting it even more discounted, that would be when I would think Whatnot could be a profitable endeavor. But I think if you're trying to get rid of your junk, people will kind of see that it might be junk. But I'm definitely curious to see if you try it out. Let us know, what you find out. James says you can do Facebook Live with no fees, but stuff will sell cheaper. Okay, so everybody's going to live selling because everyone's trying to compete. And we got some sort of super something on YouTube. Lisa, thank you so much for your contribution to the stream. That's really generous, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you so much. Please answer strategy for decreasing prices, please. If you didn't catch this like 2 minutes ago when we were talking about that, you can watch the replay and check that out. Are you from Ohio? I'm from Ohio, and Michael is in Texas. Everyone's saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I am very appreciative of Michael for giving up his time. Once again, his channel is linked down below. I really appreciated the content you put out. Just like everybody here in the chat, I'm also on YouTube trying to learn and better my business, increase my brand knowledge, learn more keywords, be able to find more profitable items at the thrift store, sell my items faster, update my policies within my business to make it better. And, I've really used Michael and Kendall's channel as a way to do that for myself, along with many other channels. And so I appreciate your time, Michael. Definitely hit their subscribe button down below in the description. You have any final words for the people?
Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining, and thanks for asking questions. It's always nice to have questions to answer. That's why we started YouTube, was to answer people questions who were new to the game or just starting or been a long time and they're struggling. So I've been in all those boats, just starting and struggling. So figured out how to overcome it, and now it's time to give back. So
awesome. Well, I did all that, and I will see you guys in the next one. I am working on having some more guests on the channel. So if you guys like this format of going live and just kind of starting with the topic and then answering your questions, definitely put some notes in the comments once this turns into a video, or if you're watching the replay, do the same. So that's all I have for you guys, and I hope you guys have a great night.
Peace.